Maple producers will often find themselves going into the woods and cutting trees for any number of reasons. It may be that they're trying to collect firewood so that they can heat their evaporator or heat their home, or that may be part of a broader scale effort to try to regenerate the sugar bush or regenerate the forest. Plants can be advantageous, plants can also be disadvantageous if they become too abundant or more abundant than what they have historically been present as. American beech is a beautiful species, it's a native species, it has a lot of wonderful attributes, but one of the problems with American beech is that when you cut it, it will vegetatively sprout from the root system and create what's called a beech thicket. So the area that you see has a stump in the middle. It's about a 12-inch tall stump, and then all around it you can see these light gray colored stems with their foliage still attached. So those are all American beech root suckers. So the root system of the beech tree after it's cut, or even if it's just been damaged, if you drive your tractor over it, the disruption to the root system can trigger this vegetative or asexual reproductive response. Those smaller beech stems have a very dense shade that limits the growth of seedlings that would otherwise grow underneath or grow from the forest floor. So that limits the reproductive potential of other species like sugar maple and red maple. What further complicates the problem is that American beech is susceptible to a decline disease that's this combination of a scale insect followed by a fungus. That results in the death of the tree. So for example, if you don't cut it, that tree may not have been cut, it may have died because of the beech bark disease. It would also trigger this root suckering response. So we can do nothing and we can end up with these thickets of American beech. Deer typically do not eat American beech. Deer don't eat beech because it has very little nutritional value. So the deer don't eat the American beech, but deer will eat the species that we typically want to perpetuate, such as sugar maple and red maple and white ash and basswood and red oak and those types of species. So the deer eat those, what we think of as desirable species, so those get shorter. The deer don't eat the American beech and those get taller. So we have this multi-factor coalescence of problems between a very desirable tree species that when you cut it triggers a root sucker response, or if it dies because of the disease. If it dies because of the disease, the root suckers that come up are genetically identical to the parent tree that died. So these younger trees will eventually also die. So it's over time, because of the overabundance of deer in many parts of the maple producing region, we need to be alert to shifting the composition, the mixture of species, to having too much American beech. Different tree species vary in the nutritional quality that they provide to wildlife. Historically, deer have always been present, but the number of deer historically has been low compared to what it is now, relative to the amount of food that's available. This is an example of of a white ash that has been browsed repeatedly by deer. So this stem down at the lower portion, you can see the zigzagging pattern. Every time a deer would come along, it nips off the bud, and then there's a subsequent bud that will emerge. It's called an adventitious bud that comes out of the side of the stem and then starts growing. So you can go all the way down to the bottom, and you can see the angular growth of this white ash. White ash would usually be very straight as it grows, but here it was browsed, here it was browsed, here it was browsed, here it was browsed, browsed again here, may have been browsed in here. This was browsed a couple of times. It allowed for the development of these two side shoots. And then over this past winter, it was browsed here, and then browsed here. So when you look at the height of this white ash seedling may be, I would guess, 6 or 8 years old. You might expect that in the absence of heavy deer pressure, you might expect this to be 3 to 5 feet tall. It's actually about 18 inches tall. You look at this in comparison to species like American beech that are not browsed. Those American beech are more on the order of 6 to 8 feet tall. So when you replicate this process of browsing and browsing and browsing of one species relative to another species, it's pretty easy to visualize how the forest will change through time.